What happens when a princess is born from the same blood? Again and again. Not love stories, real tragedies. These are 7 princesses destroyed by royal inbreeding, and it starts with Isabella II of Spain. She was born into royalty, but also into a curse. Isabella II of Spain wasn't just the daughter of a king. She was the child of an uncle and his niece. Their marriage arranged not for love, but to keep power locked inside one bloodline. Her family tree didn't branch, it twisted, and from the moment she was born it showed. Her health was fragile, her emotions unpredictable, and whispers surrounded her even as a child. But that didn't stop the palace from repeating the cycle. At just 16, Isabella was forced to marry her double second cousin, a man as entangled in her bloodline as her fate. 11 children followed, but only 5 survived. The others, lost to illness, frailty, or something never spoken aloud. And the most haunting part? Many believed that not one of those surviving children belonged to her husband. Some claimed she had lovers, others said it was political cover for something darker. But one thing was certain, the royal family needed heirs, no matter where they came from. In the end, Isabella lost her throne, but not before becoming a quiet symbol of how royal legacy could ruin the very people it was supposed to protect. Behind the portraits and titles was a woman born to rule, but broken by blood. She was born into faith, crowned with duty, and wrapped in royal blood so tangled, it quietly tore her from the inside out. Maria I of Portugal, remembered by history as Maria the Pious, began her reign with intelligence and devotion, but also with a decision that would haunt her legacy. She married her uncle, not out of love, not by choice, but because generations before her had done the same. Cousins marrying cousins, uncles marrying nieces. The goal? Preserve power. The cost? Everything else. At first, she ruled with strength, but the cracks came slowly. Her children, born of this tightly closed lineage, began dying young, one by one, half of them gone. And with each loss, Maria's mind began to fracture. Whispers turned into worry, worry into panic, and eventually, silence. Historians watched as her once sharp judgment gave way to confusion, fear, and breakdowns so severe that even her own ministers were forced to hide her away. Science today suggests her madness wasn't spiritual, but genetic, a slow collapse rooted deep in the choices her ancestors made. No one intervened, no one questioned the bloodline obsession, and so Maria, the queen who prayed for her people, was left behind by the very empire she tried to protect. Her fall wasn't dramatic, it was silent, slow, and deeply human. A woman undone not by war or betrayal, but by a family tree that never branched, only circled back in on itself. Marie-Louise of Austria looked like the perfect royal bride, young, graceful, born into one of the most powerful dynasties in Europe. But behind her soft gaze was a genome wrapped in centuries of intermarriage. Her parents were double first cousins, meaning both sets of grandparents were identical. That gave her just 4 unique great-grandparents, half the normal number. Her DNA was so compressed, it mirrored what scientists today find only in remote, isolated populations. She wasn't a mistake. She was a strategy, a living symbol of Habsburg purity. And when her father handed her over to Napoleon Bonaparte, it wasn't just a political marriage, it was a transfer of compressed, fragile legacy. Marie-Louise carried more than her family name into that union. She carried the weight of Europe's obsession with keeping royal lines clean. The irony? That very purity was producing genetic collapse. Her child with Napoleon, the King of Rome, inherited the same tightly wound DNA. He died young, sickly and stunted, just like many others in their line. What looked like royal perfection on the outside was breaking down from within. Marie-Louise's beauty, her marriage, even her role as empress. None of it could hide the silent math happening in her blood. She was everything a royal princess was supposed to be. Elegant, delicate, perfectly bred. And that's exactly where the tragedy began. Maria Antonia of Austria, unlike her infamous uncle Charles II of Spain, never became a symbol of deformity or scandal. But her blood told a far darker story. Behind her porcelain skin and refined upbringing was a genome so broken, so looped, that modern scientists compare it to a child born from siblings. Her inbreeding coefficient was higher than Charles's, and yet most people don't even remember her name. She was married off young, a pawn between empires, a soft-spoken gift traded for peace. But inside, her body was collapsing. She was constantly ill, unable to carry pregnancies to term, and emotionally fragile in ways that weren't understood at the time. Every effort to continue her line ended in heartbreak. and yet the pressure never stopped. She was supposed to be the mother of a dynasty, but she barely made it to adulthood. There were no monstrous portraits or dramatic downfalls to preserve her in memory, just silence, a quiet erasure. Perhaps that's why history forgot her, because her tragedy wasn't loud. It was slow, it was quiet, it was woven into her bones. Maria Antonia never asked to be the end of a bloodline, but that's what she became. Not a queen, not a mother, just another victim of a system that prized pure blood over human life. She was born in an era of satellites, space travel, and television, and yet Princess Alexia of Greece carried within her the same ancient risks that haunted royal bloodlines for centuries. Her parents, King Constantine II of Greece and Queen Anne-Marie of Denmark, were not only royalty, they were cousins, twice over, second cousins, third cousins, bound by love perhaps, but even more tightly by blood, and that blood came from dynasties obsessed with keeping power in the family. Alexia's birth in 1965 wasn't supposed to carry the echoes of inbreeding. The world had changed, or so it seemed. But when you traced her family tree, the pattern repeated. Royal houses crossing again and again, preserving titles but compressing DNA. Her lineage paralleled that of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, also cousins, also products of the same old equation, blood before biology. She grew up smiling in royal portraits, untouched by scandal, adored by tradition. But beneath the grace and gowns lived a hidden fragility, the quiet legacy of a system that didn't know when to stop. Princess Alexia wasn't a relic of the past. She was proof that the royal experiment didn't end in the 1800s. It simply got better at hiding. She never took a breath, never opened her eyes. Yet her tiny body, carefully preserved in the sands of Egypt, tells the most heartbreaking story of all. She was the daughter of Pharaoh Tutankhamun and his sister wife Ankhesenamun, two royal siblings bound by tradition, not love. She was born into the most powerful dynasty of the ancient world, and yet her bones, fragile and misshapen, carried the final echoes of a bloodline collapsing under its own weight. Modern scans revealed what ancient priests never spoke aloud. Her body bore the marks of severe inbreeding. She wasn't just stillborn, she was genetically doomed before she ever existed. And she wasn't alone. Another sister followed the same fate. 2 daughters, 2 small coffins, and one final warning carved in silence. This is what happens when blood becomes more sacred than life itself. Her story is brief, but it's the loudest echo in this history of royal ambition. A child erased before her name was ever spoken. Her life lost not to war or famine, but to a tradition that demanded purity at any cost. She was royalty, she was loved, but she was also the final breath of a dynasty too tightly wound to survive. From palaces to tombs, the pattern is impossible to ignore. These princesses, born into gold, raised for greatness, spent their lives carrying the hidden weight of a royal obsession, perfect blood. But what did that perfection cost? Behind every title was a body breaking down. Behind every crown, a family tree so twisted it folded in on itself. Beauty became fragility, power became pain, and in the end, the very blood meant to preserve the dynasty quietly destroyed it. From Spain to Austria, from ancient Egypt to modern Greece, these women weren't ruling their fate, they were surviving it. They were born not just into privilege, but into a biological trap disguised as tradition. They were called queens, empresses, and daughters of gods. But the truth? They were prisoners of inheritance. So we're left with one haunting question. When we praise royalty, are we celebrating power or the suffering they were never allowed to escape?